Hey gang, we just made a beeline to Miramar in San Diego, California to go see our friend Bee Man Dan. Bee Man Dan is a San Diego live bee removal expert and 15 years a bee enthusiast. After completing an internship for commercial beekeeping, Dan found his way to humanely removing bees and relocating them to healthy environments. Bee nest removal is a specialty for We Save Bees, and they've made a commitment to save and preserve the fragile bee population. Hey Dan, how are you?
Hi guys, doing great. How are you?
Good, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
So today's episode, we are talking about bees, pollination, removal, safe removal, and because we're in the landscape industry, we want people to understand that there are choices that you can make as landscapers to not only remove the bees to protect ourselves, but to protect bees. So you have been a bee expert for 15 years, right?
I've been playing with bees for 15 years, but yes.
Great, fantastic. And I know that we're gonna go see a live bee removal, but I do have a couple questions for you if you don't mind.
Buzz on.
Okay, fantastic. So Dan, why is it so important to remove bees safely?
It's the right thing to do, first and foremost. 1/3 of our food is dependent on a bee pollinating food. So if they're keeping us fed, I think we owe it to them because we technically introduced them to North America to facilitate our crops and our agriculture. We kind of owe it to them to not slaughter them, but to save them.
Absolutely.
And that's just on a philosophical level. Number two is it's still the healthier way because we're not using poisons, we're not using chemicals, we're not using all sorts of stuff that we're poisoning the local environment with. And so live removal is still a win-win any way you spend it.
And a lot of people would say that let's get rid of bees quickly, it's scary, I want them gone. But at the end of the day, how difficult it is to remove the bees lively?
It's challenging at best.
Yeah.
Because they're a wild creature living inside this box, or in other cases, roofs, trees, sheds, walls. So it requires a little bit of creativity getting to them, accessing them, and then trying to finagle on them and encouraging them to leave in this fully established home and to come with us.
Right.
And if I were a bee, I'd be a little wary of this guy.
Right.
But our job is to kind of help encourage them to come out versus trying to force them out. And I think that's where the art of it comes in.
Definitely, I could see that. And so what happens when you're done with the bees and you do collect them, what happens to them next?
They go to one or two of our bee sites, apiaries. So a bee farm is called an apiary. So they go up there to get, it's dorky, but they go through what I call rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation.
Yeah. So we just took apart their home, and it's all a mess, and we're gonna feed them their food back and everything like that. But you know, at the end of the day, we still tore open their home, but we wanna give them their space.
Yeah.
They go there, they get rehabbed. They go through basically getting strong enough again, established into a new box, something that's comfortable for them. And then from there, we find backyard beekeepers to adopt them. We have farmers that we work with that will take in the bees, avocado farmers, ranchers, and all fun stuff. And then we have 4-H groups. We work pretty heavily with the Orange County San Diego Beekeeping Association. So like the Orange County Fair, those were our bees that we got to them to use for display.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So closing like that circle of life, removing the bees, making sure they stay happy, making sure that our plant life is pollinated and we get food, right?
Spot on. I say that we take them from where they don't really belong to someone who wants to keep them.
That's great.
And I think that's a win-win for everybody.
Fantastic.
So I actually have a live bee removal that we can take part of. Are you guys wanting to watch?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so as landscapers, we run into bees quite often, especially in irrigation boxes. We're actually gonna go do a live removal right now with Dan. Ready?
Let's go. One of the questions we get asked often is why smoke what it does. But it does one of three things. The bees communicate by pheromones, by smell. So if we were to start to mess with them right now, they release what they call the alarm pheromone, or what I call stranger danger. And that's when they will mark someone and sting them. And so we're trying to cover up their ability to communicate. The second thing is it makes them think there's a fire, so they start to engorge themselves with honey. And so when they're eating, they're not really thinking about us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then there's a point, this is actually the really entertaining part. It's really hard to capture on film, but they'll eat so much that just like us during Thanksgiving, we get so lethargic that they can barely fly. Super cute, but hard to find. For these irrigation boxes, Typically, they come in through this, this hole right here, but it looks like they've treated this before. Otherwise, someone wouldn't have silicone sealed that. And so the other way that they will come in is through this little gap where the pipes run into the irrigation box. And so our approach for removal is a little bit different, but it has to do with the philosophical approach to them.
Okay.
This is a relationship that we're building with them. And we don't want to come in too hot and heavy. We want to go in, introduce ourselves, let them know that we're here on a peace mission.
Yes. And we want to take them to a safe place.
We want to take them to a safe place. And I think having that intention really makes the process a lot smoother, because I want to say that animals really understand our intention, our presence, and how we're approaching them, so they know that we're on the same team, at least most of the time.
Yes.
And then you had asked about safe removal.
Yes.
Part of it is safety for the environment, for the people. The other thing is fire safety, because we're basically building a small portable fire everywhere.
Wow, that's amazing.
Pollen, this is all intermixed. This is probably the coolest part about what we do, is being able to see this, because they're building freeform however they want to. And if you look on the inside, you have pollen, you have honey towards the top section, and then what we're looking for now are the babies, what they call the brood, and that's going to be, you can see this section where they're licking the honey. That's them taking the food in and getting ready for evacuation because of the fire, the smoke. And during this removal, we're also assessing their any diseases, how healthy they are through this process, so that we know when we take them back to one of our apiaries what to look for. And if there's something problematic, we want to quarantine them, in case there's some issue that they have. That's the idea is because we have so many hives in a single location. If they have something more catastrophic, we don't want to introduce them with mass populace. So we'd rather quarantine them before we introduce them with other colonies. And then while we're working, these are the small nuances that people don't really pick up on, but there's a tone, there's a hum, there's an audible sense, feel in the air of their temperament.
Okay.
And you want to make sure you can maintain that and keep it on their level. And I'm listening, I'm feeling, I'm waiting for a time to be able to work on them. Okay. I don't want to go in too hot and heavy, because there's a lot of people around, and that's part of the safety process of the safe removal, is we're responsible for the area and responsible for the humans that are involved as well.
So now, what do you call this right here?
This is what they call a nuke, or just a bee box. Nuke is usually a smaller nucleus colony, which is a smaller box that allows a beehive to grow a little bit better in a smaller place, so they don't have a lot of area that they need to keep warm. So this is an easier transition than to try to pack this whole thing into a big box that they have to defend and keep safe.
So how do you know, okay, like they're calm, they're ready?
This feel. So you see how they don't respond to my hand at all? Not flying, they're not coming after you, and they're not coming after me.
No, they're just chill.
Just super chill, exactly.
Yes. How long does a typical bee removal from an irrigation box take?
We usually run these anywhere from 45 minutes to hour and a half, but we don't want to rush the bees. It's kind of like living in your home for 10 years and then asking them to move out in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Not fun.
Not cool. So we want to give them their time to move on their own accord. And that's
they're
the thing.
buzzing right now.
Yeah. And our job is to not coerce them to move, but we're trying to encourage them to move by what we do is we grab the babies, which is going to be right here.
Okay.
And I'm going to put the babies inside that box. And the bees, by nature, are predominantly female, which are the nurse bees. And so instinctively, they want to take care of the babies, take care of the young. And so they're going to be following the babies as well. And when you start messing with the bees, see how they're a little bit more flighty?
Yeah.
When you're more working with the babies, the brood, that's when you really get their temperament and their personality.
Yes, they look more mad.
Not mad yet. So this is all pollen.
Okay.
Their food reserves.
Oh.
And I'm looking for this, their brood, their babies.
They're babies.
Yep.
And that's where, those are babies not born yet? Those
Not
ones?
born yet, correct.
Yep.
These are boy bees,
Okay.
slightly different shape. They protrude a little bit more. We don't really want to take that with us.
Okay.
because they're very resource consumptive. They don't really contribute much to the hive besides reproduction. So when we're doing a removal, we want to remove more of them because they'll just be a drain on the colony as they rebuild.
Kind of just have to stand here and let them attack you.
They're not quite in attack mode yet.
Yet?
Not yet.
When do they get attacky?
You'll smell like a banana smell, like around your face. And then you'll see them cling on to your suit and try to like drive their stinger into your body.
So what are you doing now?
All right, so right now I have the babies inside as much as I'm going to want to grab.
Okay.
And then now is just vacating the rest of them.
What does that mean?
So I'm getting rid of the rest of the brood, the comb, the pollen.
The stuff that you're not going to use.
Correct. Yeah, if I try to take too many, and this is just from doing this over the years, is if I try to grab too much of the brood, what ends up happening is they try to keep all of it warm in a discombobulated state, and they can't. And so all the babies die, and then the whole hive absconds, leaves. So we want to be able to give them, we want to set them up for success.
Now, do you need to save the queen bee at all, or is it because there's babies you don't really need to think
Great
about
question. So the idea is save the babies, bees follow the babies, queen follows the bees. Instead of trying to look for her, because there's probably 35 to 40,000 bees in here, trying to find her in this whole mess of a hive is almost ridiculous. So we just go with the numbers, and then percentage-wise, we usually catch her most of the time.
Personally, I don't know if you do this, do you keep any of the honey that you get from any of the hives?
Not really. So this honey that we're gonna be harvesting is gonna go back to the bees. So when we take these back to the apiary, the honey is gonna be fed right back to them. In this way, we can give them the resources they need to rebuild and to restart quicker.
Yeah, and make beeswax and continue their process.
It takes, I think they say it takes 14 pounds of resources between honey and pollen for them to build 1 pound of beeswax. So we want to be able to feed that to them so that they can restart quicker. And so at this point, they're definitely getting a little bit more ornery. And then they're gonna mellow out in about 20 minutes or so.
So on the top of the irrigation box, what do you do with that?
So that's, if it's clean enough, we can scrape off, but that's gonna be fed literally right back to the bees. That all is food. So that's predominantly honey, so we'll just lay that out for them, and they will take all that and put it right back into their colony.
And so you just are continuing looking for the babies, right?
Done looking for babies. Right now, I'm just trying to make sure they can get into this box as quick as possible to keep the babies warm. The babies need to keep a consistent 95 to 100 degrees. So this is the only part that gets a little time sensitive. In a bit, doing this properly, you'll see them actually just march in. And that's what I'm kind of looking for. But I'm not past that critical point yet. And this is all their honey.
Wow, it's so beautiful though.
It is.
It's amazing how much we need it.
Yep.
Now, do you ever get bee stings like through your suit?
They definitely can sting through the suit, especially on like hot summer days. I mean, it's a good protection, but it's not foolproof. If we go too quick or too gruff with them, they'll definitely sting through these gloves. But
do you have like beekeeper gloves, or are these just better?
These allow us maximum dexterity to see what's going on, feel what's the situation. Some of the times when we're working, we don't have a visual. We're just sticking our arm inside of a cavity.
Oh, wow.
And so we don't really know what we're doing. Sorry, we know what we're doing, but we can't see what we're doing.
How does one interview to become a bee saver?
It's usually, you really, really have to want to do it.
I was gonna say, yeah, I'm pretty scared to do it.
It requires a person who's borderline a little bit crazy. The nature of our projects is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. I could tell. Now you're gonna scrape that off, right?
No, that's food on the platter for them.
Oh, so you're just gonna leave it out for them?
I'm gonna take that with us, and then that's gonna go to the apiary with us.
And so you're just finishing scooping, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to kick them out best I can, because right now this smells better, more familiar with them than that box.
Oh, so they're like, this is our home, not that.
Yeah. And it's really hard to pick up on camera, but that pitch, the sound is different than earlier.
Yeah, I could tell.
And this is when they change their behavior completely. and they're no longer trying to sting you.
So how many bee removals do you do in a day?
Depends on the type of project. In irrigation box, one team will probably do anywhere from 6 to 8 of them.
Wow.
Per day. And then the more complicated or more involved projects, we might do 1 or 2 for a team. Peak summer, we'll be rescuing anywhere from 15 to 20 hives a day.
So that's dinner.
That's all dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So the landscapers are gonna have to come back out and replace that irrigation top.
Correct, because if you slap this lid back on, you're gonna get another hive, guaranteed.
Yeah, well, because it has kind of the same scent and the honey on there.
Exactly. And as much as we clean it, something this saturated doesn't clean well. And so you're left with a compromised box.